有声音吗？没有声音。啊，有吗？哦，嗨，大家午安，我是湘汶，谢谢大家来我们今天这个展览，就是情书手剪后战争的艺术家座谈。那这个展览在昨天下午关渡美术馆开幕。然后我们这个展览有来自印尼、日本、马来西亚跟台湾的艺术家的一个联展。然后因为今天的时间的关系，所以就由4位参与到这个计划里面的艺术家和策展人向大家做一个简单的分享，这样。然后在他们的分享之前，我就用几句话简介这一个展览计划，这样子。对，然后这个展览其实开始于我在2016年第一次到印尼的时候的一趟算是考察，然后我就开始对这一个地方产生了一些的兴趣，于是进而我就争取到了接下来的一些机会，前往印尼的除了爪哇岛、苏拉卫西岛，还有一些就是在这2个岛上面的一些城市去考察一些文化和艺术的景观这样子。然后在2017年的12月获得国家艺术基金会视觉策展专案的补助，所以我们就邀请了印尼的艺术家来到台湾做2个月的驻村，然后也让台湾的几位艺术家到印尼群岛或者是欧洲一些其他地方就做作品素材的取得的一些拍摄计划这样子。然后今天会有4位艺术家。那第一位是梅西的作品，他这次参加有2件作品是2013年他在印尼的爪哇岛上踏访，还就是在太平洋战争时期曾经被作为慰安妇被送去当慰安妇的一些女性这样子。然后我当时知道他的这个计划的时候，我就非常积极的邀请他来到台湾做驻村的计划，希望他可以从他原本关心的这个主题做一点延伸。对，然后第2位应该会是 Maharani， 然后他的作品会从印尼的一个重要的历史事件，就是930事件开始发想。那他其实是因为有一天翻到了他祖父的日记，然后他从他祖父的日记里面所书写的文字，看到了跟他之前所了解的印尼历史的书写有所出入，所以他就开始发展了现在你们在关渡美术馆会看到那一系列的作品，这样待会他会再加以解释。然后第3位会是毛姆鲁，他是日本的艺术家，在去年也有到关渡美术馆进行1个月的驻村，然后在这个期间他也是来来回回在日本、台湾、印尼跟欧洲之间做录像作品的取材这样子，然后待会可以更深入的看。然后他这次会分享2件作品，一个是我们在印尼日惹展出的作品，然后再来就是这一次在关渡美术馆平户大园巴达维亚这件作品。对，然后第4位就是阿哈姆，他是印尼日惹的策展人，也是我们当时在日惹展出的画廊的策展人。今年他也加入了日惹双年展的策展团队，所以待会他会分享关于印尼的工艺、印尼的蜡染图腾和文化意涵。那如果大家会后对日惹双年展的运作或者今年的主题有兴趣的话，我觉得也可以跟他多加的聊聊。那我们接下来就把时间交给 Meicy。 Yes。
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Meicy SITORUS, and I'm one of the artists, the participant artists in this group exhibition. So this afternoon, I will do presentations on my works, which exhibited, both of my works, which exhibited in Kwandu Museum of Fine Arts. Yeah. So the first one, I will be talking about my previous work, which is Nona Jawa. Which I did from 2011 to 2014. And I made it into books. So it's a documentary photography, and it's a collaboration project with an independent researcher, specifically on Yanfus, or we can call it comfort women. Yeah, and so the starting point of this project is actually there's an invitation and a discussion with a researcher, and she needs a photographer for the Jugun Yanfu, especially in Java. So not everyone's familiar with these terms. So Jugun Yanfu is also known as comfort women. During the Pacific War era in Indonesia, and also in several countries in Asia, which is Philippines, sorry? IANFU, yeah. Yanfu is actually from Japanese word, so we call it penyintas in Indonesia, or survivors. That's fine. So why we choose Java Island? Because there's a research during the Pacific War era. So Java is the most densely populated area in Indonesia. So it's the main source for human resource and also natural resource for war. So most of the Indonesians sent out of the Java Island to other islands or other countries for their needs. Yeah. So yeah, we agree on doing this project, and we started on 2011 after a long discussions. Yeah, and next. So the journey started in West Java because I came from Bandung, and the nearest district from my home is Cimahi. So this is, if you can read, sorry. This one. This is Cimahi, and this is where I live. We go to 3 different cities in West Java, which is Cimahi, and then afterwards we go to Bogor. Maybe Reiki knew about it. And then the next one is, the last one in West Java is Sukabumi. So these are 3 survivors that I've met during the journey, and yeah, so it's not just doing the documentations on the survivors, but also the historical places that related to the issues, and specifically on the Pacific War era. So yeah, 2 of the survivors already passed away. The one from Sukabumi just passed away this year, and the one from Cimahi passed away like around 2 years ago. And And next, we go to Central Java. As I mentioned before, that we're not just visiting the women, the survivors, but we also went to the historical places, which has a long story on this comfort women. So during those era, the Pacific War era, Japanese made a brothel house, or you can say comfort station, an ianjo in English, and the first visit is in Semarang. So we went to these two places, and both of these places are used as a hotel. The first one is Hotel Oasia, and then the other one is Du Pavillon. Both of these places is where the Ianjos is. And then afterward, we went to Salatiga, this area, to meet one of the survivors too, which has a interesting case on these issues. So she was born as a high, how do you say it, like like a high social class. She was a daughter of like a head of the village, and she was specifically chosen by a high-rank general, high-rank Japanese general, to stay at his house. And one more thing is she was abducted in a very young ages, which 13 years old. So most of the women, or the comfort women that I met, is from Central Java, and they have different stories. So the different stories is they were put inside the Ianjo. Also, there are a lot of cases that outside Ianjo, like the rape and violence, etc., etc. So you can say that this system that the Japanese military built for their own army is not really working, because there's still a violence outside the place that they built for the army. So yeah, and this is wait, and then we went to, there's another building which is connected with this woman that lives in Salatiga. This is the high rank. It used to be the house of the high rank general that I told you before. Yeah. And you can see these are the women's that I met during the journey. So we spent maybe around only for Central Java, we spent 2 or 3 weeks to meet all of the comfort women, the survivors. And the last one is, sorry, this is actually East Java. My bad. So we went to Kediri and also Blitar. This women, Rumini, was already placed in a nursery homes that was actually built and funded by the social department of Indonesia, and they get funded by the Japanese government. So, okay, next. Yeah. I did an exhibition on this work before, back in 2015, Rani. I did this group exhibition also with Rani back in Jakarta. And I made it into a photo book because this particular history is not a, how do you say it, like, it's not everybody knows about it, but because we've been colonized by Dutch 350 years, comparing to Japanese, we only 3 years, so 42 to 45, but there are a lot of stories, dark stories during that era, and I believe a book is a medium that the best one to inform about this history, not just the text but also the visual or recent documentation on the survivors. Okay. Are there any questions or? So I have, well, you can consider I'm lucky because I work with a researcher that has been working for years with them. But the thing is, the other benefit that I have is I'm a woman, so it makes them easier to talk or taking pictures of them. Although we have, there's a, how do you say, there's a distance because I have camera, and so for some people it's uncomfortable, and I believe it's more uncomfortable for them talking about that, and then you have to take, I mean, I have to take pictures of them while they're talking about their stories, etc., etc. So it's a, I think it's a pretty, yeah, I consider myself lucky to do this specific project because of the researcher, and also me as a woman, and how I look at them, not just about their dark story, but also looking at them at the present time. It's not just about the bad history, but also you have to look at, like, they are literally beautiful even in their old age. So I try to bring that out too. It's not just about the hurt. You have to see like the other side of it too. Yeah. So, any how? Okay, the next. So yeah, the next one is a new project that I made during the residency in Tainan last year, 2018, from September to October. Yeah, so Shawn invited me to do a residency in Tainan, and at first, the discussion is about what if we try to talk about this specific issue that I've been doing before, like the previous issue, but we're talking about residency. You can plan all the things that you wanted, but during the journey or the time in residency, things happens, and you find interesting stuff, and it's kind of a, how do you say, like, change the directions. Yeah. So about this project, I have no idea what I'm gonna do in Taiwan. Like, honestly, I don't know. I never been to Taiwan, and this is my first overseas residency, so I have no idea, and I try not to build in expectations during the residency. Well, because of the previous project, I tried to find the historical background between Taiwan and Indonesia, also during the Pacific War era. And then during those time, I encounters a lot of things, you can say, because I walk a lot in Taiwan and riding bike. Basically have your own time to think and focus on doing your project. Yeah, so after that, I made this stuff over here, which it's in Indonesian, so, but yeah, it's like a simple brain mapping of mind. And then at some point, after visiting museums, looking at other people artworks and reading, I was bumped into this specific book. So Xiangwen, yeah, okay, Reiki had it. Yeah, so I went to the local National Library of Tainan to read this, because Xiangwen told me you should read this. Maybe you can find something interesting inside it. Yeah, so this specific book by Chen Chanwu called Hunting Captive Women is only available in Mandarin or Taiwanese and Japanese. So I tried, it's a bit funny that I tried to translate it with Google, like literally one by one, like chapters, because it's a journal of Chen Qianwu during his service for the Japanese during the Pacific War era. And it's a fiction, but loosely based on his personal experience. So yeah, after doing the Google translates of each chapters, I find these specific chapters interesting for me. I hope this is the right translations of each chapters. Yeah, it's somehow reflect what I felt during the residency. Like, you went to a new place, you met new people, and then you find similarity as in the mood or the landscapes or even the plants, like the weather, etc., even fruits or whatever it is. And yeah, so this chapters that I choose is the one that I felt close to myself personally. Like, there's an example of him explaining on his first visit in Indonesia, on how beautiful the palm trees and the sun and like the beautiful landscapes, like paintings, like Moy indie paintings, which I find it also in Tainan, both in real nature and in an electrical box like this one. So, and also some of the pictures also have a fact, just like his writings. It's a mix between fictions and fact. Like this particular images, both of this, used to be a location of a Yanzhou, and now they built this is in Kaohsiung, so they built a public public park, and then, sorry? Central Park in Kaohsiung. And this one is also in Kaohsiung near the harbor, the pier. I forgot the name of the area. This one. And they use it as a kindergarten right now. So yeah, after that, I tried to I've been visiting places and also starting to realize that photography is my way of communicating with people, like you know, remember the names or their faces, and labeling them, like literally labeling them, like, okay, I know his name, I know her name, and I can talk to this person or etc. And this is the place that I like. This is the place that I last like, and so yeah, and so I did this thing. It took me to this thing, a further research on links between photography and colonialism. So I started looking at the archives in Taiwan, and also when I got back in Indonesia, I tried to see or search for certain images on propaganda or the using of photography or other medium, the recording medium such as videos or maybe posters. So this is what I did. This is Arham. Yeah, so I took pictures of friends and new friends, and also some of them, I don't know some of them. So I just, when they came to the studio, which I did a residency in Photo Aura, I just hand them a form that you have to fill out the names and your occupation and your birth. So just to make their photos, like the profile photos. I'm using a analog camera, a rangefinder. So, yeah. No. Just a regular 35 millimeters. Yeah, and so the things about this specifically, I saw this also on the Chen Wu work, that he uses his writing skills on communicating with people and making points on everything. So vice versa. So mine is photography. Yeah. Yeah. So like, this is some of the images of propaganda. So this is two of these images are actually still videos from Nippon Eigasha videos that made by Japan during the Pacific War era in Indonesia on how to build a better living, good for a better future. The point is for the better future. So, and I find it interesting because it's still connected to the one that I did back in Thailand. Like, so yeah, some of this also. This is an image on Jawa Baru newspaper, and two of this are the one in Taiwan, and I got it from the Taiwan National History Museum. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. That's it. If there's any questions, please. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was I was using Chen Chen Wu's writing to build the narrations, and I put the sequence not by the timeline of, but the chapters, and also the similarity between pictures that I took from Indonesia and also in Taiwan. So it's also talking about the in-between space. That's the considerations of the sequence, and why I choose the specific things with the box, the acrylic box, and why smaller size of photos, because I don't know, like if you go to the museum, it's this particular pictures are with a historical background. You put it inside a very sleek display, and I think it's very cold, and for me personally, that's kind of weird. So that's why I try to give the audience also the questions about, do you, like, if you want to talk about the history, it's not just, you don't put it in just the pretty things, and you have to look at it very carefully. That's why I choose the smaller sizes of the prints. You have to know more about things instead of just going to the museum and stuff like that. That's also talking. Yeah. Why black and white? Personal choices, I guess. Personal choices, I guess. Yeah. Are there? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, starting. Hello, everyone. So my name is Maharani Manchanagara, and I'm one of the artists that participate on the exhibition Letter Callus Postwar in Quando Museum of Fine Art. And I will start the presentation of my two series, and the second series is still on exhibition at Quando. So, the project began when I trying to know more about my grandfather. Actually, I never met him, and I only know his name and just know he's a teacher, and that's all. And later on, when I did in campus, so for my final project, I want to know better about my roots, so that's I'm doing kind of personal research about my family. And then this is my grandfather, this one, and he's got 11 sons. All of them are sons. And this is my father, he's number 9, and then number 9, and all the boys. And after that, I asked my father, who's my grandfather, and what did he do back then? And then my father just said, just ask the older one, this guy. And then I asked my uncle, we call it Pakde. He just gave me a box of the diary book, and then this is the diary of your grandfather. You just learn it from that, because we don't want to talk about it anymore. And then that's my journey begin. I want to trace back my roots. And then one of the part of the book during the 90s to 60s that interests me. Well, actually, they being caught and arrested during the Suharto eras to Buru Island. So I made it a timeline to make it simple. So in the 1965, there's a Gerakan 30 September or September 30th movement in Indonesia. And 1966, the government under Suharto, the second president of Indonesia, started accusing people that related to Indonesian Communist Party or other organization related to the PKI, we call it the party, and member or family that related to the labor organization. And then at the year 1968, the downfall of the power from Sukarno, the first president, into Suharto, the second president of Indonesia. And then on 1970s, the Sukarno, first president of Indonesia, died. And then 1977 and to 79, the government under Suharto began to reparty the political prisoner because of international human rights. And then the 1982 to 84, there's we call it Petrus, or a mysterious shooting, over 1,000 people killed under Suharto's regime. And then on the year 1998, the Suharto's regime's end. And on the 2015, the International People's Tribunal on Crime Against Humanity in Indonesia. There's a tribunal in Netherlands for a case in this area, this event. Okay, let's start the project. On the 1965, there's an event called September 30 movement, or Gerakan 30 September, G30, or Gestapo, or Gestok, or Gerakan 1 Oktober, is an event that took place after the night of September 30 and the beginning of October 1st, when 7 high-ranking Indonesian military officers, along with several people, others were killed in a coup attempt. And then after that, the massacre of people accused of being communists and arrested. And there was attack against civilians, is that the PKI, the Communist Party of Indonesia, and those alleged to be its leader or members or another organization that might be intersect with PKI, were being arrested. That one including my grandfather. And then I made a map, because from the diary, I tried to trace back from the year. My grandfathers were being arrested in the Surabaya here, and then moved to the Nusa Kambangan Island. There's a huge prison in Nusa Kambangan, and then they move it to the Buru Island. It's like a tiny island near Maluku, and then, yeah, maybe I can talk later. On the 68 to 99, during Suharto's era of presidency, we're living in happiness. It's like living costs were affordable, like food, groceries, car, house, and education. And it's easier to get a job. And the Indonesian rupiah's value to USD was so stable back then. And the criminal rate was so low because it's under the military regime. But there's also the implanted propaganda that we were taught that we must get rid of the communists to the roots. And then the government commissioned a filmmaker, Indonesian filmmaker, to make a movie about the anti-communists. And the movie is called Pengkhianatan G30S PKI. And we have to watch it every year in the national TV station. But the reality, we're living in a bubble of happiness, I think. Because in fact, a lot of debts and government corruption, and also the military glorification that the nation's successes was gained from the military struggle. And lots of people being accused and arrested and moved to the Buru Island. Nowadays, the history, the event about the 1965 has been told through the government version during the elementary school. And then people began to speak up about the issue through the independent book and independent movie after the 98. And then in my generation, my era, the issue about 65 is not really common to talk to because, yeah, still the Suharto's taboo. It's like a taboo to talk about that event. But the government has not responded seriously about this case, the responsibility, the trauma, or guarantee for life. And the victims or in the family are still physically and mentally unrecovered because a lot of political prisoners cannot have a job after they get back from the Buru Island because on the ID card, it mounted like ET, ex-tapol. It's like an ex-prisoner. So it's kind of hard to get a job after you going back from the Buru Island. And then this is my first project. It's called Parodi Partikelir, but in English it's like a private parody. So we're going to talk about the project in Surabaya. I did a little short trip in Surabaya where the people that accused to be a communist or organization that in fact the Communist Party, and then they being arrested into Penjara Koblen, the Koblen prisoner, and it was built on 1930. Well, it used to like the Heitaisan. It's like a Japanese soldier that being caught and then put it here. And then on the 46 to 48, this place is also for the Indonesian soldier during the Dutch colonialism. And it's kind of sad and funny too, because when I visit this prisoner in Surabaya, is Java, it's only like only a wall and also 5 gates, 5 towers left. This is the tower, and this is the wall, and this is the tower. And then the gate, the main building, you can see that on the 2009, the Surabaya governor make this building into like cultural heritage building. And now, like this, it's only the wall and the tower, but it used to, in the era 2000 early, it used to like be a market. It's like a fruit market there. And then, yeah, there's also a traditional shop in front of the gate. And this is from the inside. And you can see there's a house outside. And then, this is kind of funny but so sad, because nowadays there's a kindergarten in the area in the prisoner, but and also there's a like bus parking. It's like some private company rent the building to rent it again to the bus parking lot. It's kind of sad because it's a cultural heritage, and nowadays it's like for the kindergarten study and then the bus parking lot. And it makes me like, okay, it's inspiring me to make new work in Surabaya, and I've got an opportunity to have an exhibition in Surabaya, and I think that's the idea of my work in the first series. And I also did the interview with this guy. His name is Oi Him Wee. He used to be a journalist from the Trompet Masyarakat newspaper. And he said that he's really close to Sukarno, our first president. That's why he's being accused and arrested to Koblen to the prison, and also going to Nusa Kambangan, and also Pulau Buru. And I'm trying to ask him, does he know my grandfather? And he said that he didn't remember, but it's kind of familiar with the name. So yeah, I make a video too about him, and it's like digging some information about what's happening back then, and to the others, the ex-prisoner in Surabaya. And then this is my work. It's like a reconstruction of what happens, like from the memory of my grandfather, and then from the Oi Him Wee, and then I make a reconstruction what's happened in the Koblen area. And this is the part of the diary. And then this work is about the Koblen prisoners, but back then and nowadays. So nowadays they're also outside the prisoner. It's kind of sad because there's a garbage collection. So I'm using this image. So it's like I take a picture there, and then I throw it into this configuration. So this is another view of the work. And from the mini interview that I did in Surabaya, I made like a newspaper. It's my brand of the newspaper. It's called Warta Pijar. Warta Pijar is another name of a newspaper, or we call it koran. And then like this. And then this is, I showed my grandfather's diary here. And this one too is the things that in diary that written. It's my grandmother has sent something to the prison for my grandfather. Well, actually, it's kind of funny because a lot of people whose his relative is in the prison, they just give a lot of sugar because sugars could raise your energy. And on the exhibition, there's a organization that respond to their request that it's okay if in the opening we can borrow you some clothes of the Japanese soldier and Indonesian soldier to make it like more historical exhibition. Oh, okay, that's fine. So a lot of people could use this. This is the Japanese style of soldier, and this is the Indonesian style. Is that correct, Mamoru? Okay, so it's kind of unique because that organization, it's Surabaya is quite common for the historical buildings, and they have the historical community, and every November 10th they make like reka ulang, reconstruction of the event in the November 10th. So they make it in the street, and then it's like they make their own bomb and like soldiers like that. It's gonna good, I think, if you want to come to Surabaya on November 10th. Okay, that's my first project, and then the second project is in Bandung. It's called Zero Sum Game, and now we're going to talk about the Buru Island. During the 68 to 79. Buru Island is basically the third largest island with the Maluku Island of Indonesia, and then the capital city is Namlea, surrounded by Selat Malaka, and it's a kind of rainforest island famous for its clove and eucalyptus tree. And local people traditionally occupied villages. The men hunted the wild pig, and the women gathering the wild vegetables. And in the 60s to 70s, during the military regime of General Suharto, Buru Island became one of the main places of exile and imprisonment of political dissidents. As you can see, there's like killing, extermination, enslavement, enforced eviction or movement in civilians, and torture. Yeah, it's like that. And that's why I make the like a folk tale. It's called Hikayat Wana Tentram, and now is part of the show at the Kwando Museum of Fine Art. And the background is the I made it a folk tale because Japanese influence during the pre-independency of Indonesia. It's like how to attract people's heart. It's called Minshin Haku. And how to indoctrinate people. It's called Senbukosaku. And I'm starting to use a folktale as a metaphorical puppet show because I think it's the best way to transfer the story from generation to generation. So I wish that I made this folktale. It could be like Pinocchio or maybe just another folktale in your area. And I made the title is Hikayat Wana Tentram. Hikayat means tale, and Wana is the forest, and Tentram is peace. So it means like a tale of the peace forest. And it inspired by the name of the barrack in Buru Island during the political exile, such as Wanapura, Wanareja, Wanayasa. And then in the Buru Island during the political exile, there's about 20 units, and it's kind of separate between all of the area of the Buru Island. And one unit could have maybe 5 to 10 barrack. And one barrack contains of 100 people could live there. And then there's a kitchens barrack every unit. And also there's a, and it's kind of dividing the unit. It's like if you're a journalist and also a teacher, you can get the unit 1. And then if you're a laborer and then you can get to the another unit. It's like this, that's the separation of the political prisoners. And then on the folktale, there's a character I made as a metaphorical on the event back then. So the Fox character is a political exile category A, which accused as a leader of an organization or someone who had an influence or mostly being killed when arrested. And the second character is a mouse deer, the political exile category B, who accused as a member of an organization or someone who might had an influence or and the people who's being arrested without any reason or justice and being called to Nusa Kambangan Island and Buru Island. And the third character is the sheep, the political exile category C, being accused or might be a member of an organization and someone who might had an influence. They being jailed in the island of Java and Sumatra, mostly. And the fourth character is the pirates. And I assume as a military background or soldier, Indonesian soldier, and they follow the order from the government, and sometimes they're doing things without a cause. And the last character is a frigate bird. It's a metaphor of international human rights organization or mass media. So this is the main thing of the story, this book. Maybe later you can read it. And then this project sure. And then this is part of my solo project last year in Bandung. And this is all the story. Maybe you can read it later. And there I made also like a short story, like the wooden piece that shown some of the space into the museum, the Quando Museum. And then this is the characters. And then this is the pirate ships when they came to the island. And then there's a fight between the fox and the pirates because the fox want to cover the others. And then the fourth one is after the fight, the pirates only could bring the mouse deer. And then they bring to another island and doing the things, killing and enslavement and etc. And after that, the mouse deer trying to make like a strategy with the frigate bird to make an attack to the pirates. And after that, they wins and they could going back home. And this is another medium, like more 3D to make like a performative, theatrical performative, I think. I don't know. You can see it later. So my friends helped me to share the story to the others with the performance, with these puppet things. And this is the sketches that during, like, I collected the data before I merge into the other characters. And this is the exhibition view. This is the mural. And I made also the Wanatantrum Island, the island, island that I make. And this is what it's look like in the gallery, the campus gallery actually. And that's my idea is I want to share it with the younger generation. Yeah, still there. This is the video. There's a sound. The sound. This is the performance of the folktale. Okay. There's black. I don't know. Mamoru help. Yeah, it's playing. So that's my friend and my other friends. So we made a performance and also a workshop for kids. Yes, the puppet workshop. So the workshop is how to make a puppet and how you build the story, and they could do the performance too. Yeah, that's all. That's all of my presentation. Okay. Okay. Next. Okay.
You use different media, like cutting, like something like wayang, yeah, puppet.
Puppet.
Also the books, the publication. So how do you choose the different media to adapt your story, and why you choose these media? Yeah.
Okay, I'm using several media for the work because it's basically I want to make a folktale. So how the folktale could be spreading into the generation, especially my generation and my lower generation, and that's why I make a folktale. And the easiest way, if you're spreading the folktale, is using the book because the parent could read it at the night to their kids. And for the wooden things, the wayang, it's inspired me because back then in the Java era, wayang is using to how to tell the story. It's like maybe similar to propaganda things to how to tell the story. It's like more funny. So they're using wayang too, just like that. Any other question? Yeah.
Yeah. Did the police come to your exhibition in Surabaya?
In Surabaya, no, actually,
because it's not easy to talk about 1965 tragedy, especially in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And that's my first question. And the second, I always curious about how can your family still safe after your grandfather go jail in Buru Island? Because I know your father work in the government.
Yeah.
How can that happen? Because normally, if you have a family and they got jailed because of that tragedy, they will. Let's say
I cannot come to the
government. You cannot
things.
come to the government.
I cannot. Okay, I will answer your question. Okay, the first thing is that both of the exhibition that I made, there's no police coming, but there's a lot of people asking me or the gallery or the curator, is that who's that, and is it from the is it funded by the party? Which party? It's like a political party. And we just said that no, it's funded by myself, and I want to know more about history. I want to give the other perspective to the others about the history that from my family and from the other family. So I think they could understand. And both of the exhibition in Surabaya and also in Bandung, I've got a lot of questions from some people and the media too. And it's kind of hard to explain to them. Like you said, it's kind of taboo to talk about it. But if we are talking, it's like person to person, I don't want to do like email interview or a telephone interview. If you want to interview me, just we can discuss. We can have a sip of coffee. So that's why I can explain all of your questions. So I think it could be they understand with that. And yeah, some of the question about the funding or something from the party. That's so common, I think. And the second one is the how can I survive and my family survive. My father's work at the government things, the institution of the research in Jakarta. Well, actually, it's kind of lucky, I think, because my grandfather, when I was a kid, my father and the uncles just said that I never met him. It's like from my cousin. The stories from my cousin. They just said my grandfather just came back from Netherlands to do the education things. So he studied in Netherlands, but The reality is no. My father and my grandfather just came back from Buru Island, and maybe it's my lucky because during that era, maybe it's like a lucky point of Indonesian people back then have a lot of children. So the youngest the youngest sons were, it's like being together with the oldest one. So my father's is raised by the oldest sons. So my father's is in the Sumatra's island in Padang, while the grandfather's in Buru. So maybe that's why my family is still safe, and my father could work at the government, and I also could study at the National University. Yeah, I think that's my luck. Yeah, because as Arham said that a lot of people that their families got the ET prisoner, the exile, the ID card, they didn't get a job easily or get the education easily until your son or your daughter and your granddaughter, just like that. Maybe it's just my luck, because during my father was raised with the eldest. Yeah, that's all I think. If you wanna have a question, yeah. Well, actually, the two projects here is like my starting point is not finished yet, because I want to try like throw into the audience, and I want to know what's the feedback from the audience. So I think now it's safe because I'm using as a metaphor the folktale. So it's I think I will continue it more like gamblang, more like blunt. Later, I will make a new folktale. Yeah, that's only the brief. Okay, how? Yeah, sure. Thank you all.
Check, check. Okay. So we are back again. Actually, I've been here once, 2018. No, maybe 2017 December or sometime like that. And actually, I think I introduced this project that I'm going to introduce again. So there might be an overlap, but anyway, I want to introduce one of my project, and that's my name, Mamoru. And the whole series has this long name, a long listening journey of a possible history, especially of Japanese and Dutch and something more. So that's the title of the series. And for this project of letters, Callus, post-war, I'm presenting two works. One currently in Kwandu Museum, and also another one in Lorong Gallery in Yogyakarta. And today I want to introduce both of them briefly. So this one is a different version of the same work. I'm presenting it in Kwandu. This one was in Vienna. It's a little different setting, but the files are the same. It's just a different installation. So basically it's a 5-channel video installation. People ask me very often why 5 and why the monitors looking different direction and why monitor all has different angle. And I think it's essential, and it's FAQ, so I will answer it even before you ask me. It's just simple kind of embodiment of how I think history is engaged with our perception. And it's always different. Perspective exists, multiple perspective exist. And as an installation, I try to inspire visitors or the viewers to kind of take different position, not just one, and to make the body move. I thought maybe changing the direction, changing the angle, position in the not conventional way, like putting on the wall. Also, you will see that the contents deal with very little voices in the histories. So I really wanted to take these voices off the wall, because the wall in art, for me, represents authority. And this one I really wanted to put on the floor because the place was very low. But at the same time, the floor is not something you would find monitors to be placed. I mean, these days, a lot of exceptions, but so that's basic idea. And if you want to know more, you can ask more details. But to go into the details or the contents, the title of this chapter is called Firando, Tayouan, Batavia. And maybe just by these names, some people can tell that it's about VOC, the Dutch East Indian Company, but usually not. So I will tell you more about that. The chapter 7 is inspired by actually one letter I found that kind of exposes a less known history around 17th century, Japan, Indonesia, and Taiwan. And to begin with, I will show some of the elements that actually you would see on the monitors. And in the work, I don't talk. There's no narration. Actually, there's no voice. It's just a few recording I did in places that were put on the work, plus a little bit of music sound. But today, I will talk. So you can go to the museum and remember, or you can actually play the archive from ETAT website and do like an audio guide, maybe. Anyway, you might know about the persecuted Japanese Catholics during the 17th, 16th century. Maybe you've seen Martin Scorsese's latest movie, Silence, from Hollywood. Which, yeah, I think you can see it on a lot of websites. But anyway, there were a lot of Catholics, just like everywhere in the world. And but then the shogunate started persecuting and then murdering them. So these are from Dutch book, but they have a lot of details about the tortures and persecution that they went through. They were killed, and they were also kicked out from the territory of Japan, including missionaries from Portuguese, Spanish, elsewhere, and fathers, believers from Japan as well. And they were deported from a place called Firando in Dutch, but Hirado is the name. And I just remember this scenery, and nowadays it looks like this, and you still have this Dutch storage, which now is a museum. And from Firando, you take a boat. I mean, that's the only way you can go out of the territory from the island. And we'll fast forward. We go south, and we reach to an island once called Il Formosa by Portuguese, and I'm sure you guys know. It's Tayouan, and back then Japanese sometimes call it Taihan, and of course it's Taiwan. And the footage I took from is Ampin, today's Ampin, and back then it was called Zealandia. And this is one of the most detailed image exist from those days. And it's in the south of Taiwan, for those of you who doesn't know, online. Then you leave. Usually you pass through Zealandia, and then these Catholics, they were deported again, sometimes to Philippines. Like Manila had some population of these people. And it's like 2 months you go on a ship and then you reach Java. And the local people back then called these places, this place as Jayakarta. And the Japanese, they somehow couldn't say Jayakarta, so they said Jagatara, which kind of sounds like Jakarta more or less, but the name Jakarta was putting it back to these places by Japanese, so that might have a connection. And Dutch called the place as Batavia, and it's a very well made. Like you can see, you know, this straight line that doesn't exist in nature. And you would find this kind of a very rigid type of construction also in Netherlands and also where they touched, South America, many places in Asia. So I follow the path that might have most probably have been taken by these exiles. And the work is inspired by this history, but there was another group of people arriving together with these persecuted Catholics, which were mixed-raced, meaning that European father and Japanese mothers. So there were kids who were born with this kind of, well, trading slash, yeah, whatever you want to call it. And I found I find it's understandable from the point of view of the authority, but I also find it super problematic because they were kicked out because they were thought that potentially they were Christians. They were just regarded as potential Catholics. And the shogunate look at the Catholic as a threat to national security. So that sounds familiar today. You know, religion becoming national threat, and then people start to close the borderline and kicking out people. So it's been practiced even before 17th century. But so I got interested in the subject more and more, thinking about what's happening today also. But also personal, I don't know, interest driven in more deep into the subject, not just political. And yeah, this is part of the footage. And in the film or this 5-channel video installation, there are many shots that include this fabric that were designed by a Japanese fashion designer that I collaborated with, and another costume that she made also. And it's actually inspired by this letter. And it doesn't look like a letter, but it is a letter. And this one I remember I showed it before when I talked here. But anyway, this is the back side or the front side, we don't know, but where's the button? This? But you can see the letter, right? And there is the name of the writer. It's assumed that it's a female or girl, because the name, it's a Koshoro. Koshoro doesn't sound like Japanese name, so you can guess, also I can guess that she's probably one of those people who are mixed race. Or she had a Catholic name and maybe the nickname was taken from this name. And maybe her father was a high rank of the VOC company, that she was able to smuggle this letter into the trading ship and send it back to Firando. Do you remember where we left? Otherwise, it's not really possible. So I just assume or imagine that she wrote on the back of this fabric, and it's a letter designated to her nanny, and she basically write how much she misses Japan. And it's very touching and a very emotional letter. And this is the close-up, and I asked to analyze one of the experts on the fabric and textile and history of the textile, and she said the fabric, this fabric seems to be Chinese silk from those days. And actually there's the front side or the back side, we don't know. But the other side has Indian cotton. So that is kind of a crystallization of the trading of the VOC. So this object also represents them. But so it makes me think, it's, well, maybe interesting is not a good word, but it makes me think a lot about this object that she uses. Or maybe she was intentionally using this Chinese silk and Indian cotton to say that she's part of this history. I don't know. But it talks to me. And well, the letter, if I roughly translate it, it says, Dear Nani, I miss Japan. It wasn't temporary after all. I departed and never will be back home. Thoughts like this make me heart uneasy. Tears overflow from my eyes. It feels unreal, and I cannot tell what is happening to me. It is just overwhelming, but I would like to send you a tea. Oh, Japan, I miss it, I miss it, I miss it. So this fabric was a wrapping fabric for the tea. So it's kind of a gift, probably product, or I think there's a personal touch on the fabric. But it's like a gift, and it was part of, I think it became part of the trading box. It's in the box, so no one sees it, or I don't know. It's very difficult to, it must have been very difficult to send this, and but somehow it survived. And letter like this, as an artifact, doesn't exist so much. Maybe they keep it in the house, they never show in the museums. But there are some official letters, but in these days, the letters were even prohibited. So, yeah, it talks about her personal desire, kind of overcoming this large histories, or the histories that she was kind of blown out here and there. And talking about her position, you know, she got kicked out because of her blood, let's say. And she probably was in a not bad position in Batavia because she had a Dutch father or European father. So they consider them more on their side. So she could have had maybe good life in terms of, I don't know, money or the status, but she still lost her home, you know, homeland and home and connection to her childhood. So yeah, the same you know, being treated this way and that way, and I'm sure it make her think, and not just think, but suffer as well. And the video came just wondering about this history, and I have no conclusion. And the second piece I want to show, it's related, and that's why I chose these two to present in this exhibition. And this is a very small view on the Lorong Gallery in Jogja. And this is 2B chapter 9. It's still in progress, so it's 2B chapter 9. And it's titled very short, JFF, and you would see why. It's a 2-channel video piece, but it's a video essay. And talking about essay doesn't make sense to me, so I will just play it. It's just 6-7 minutes, and I hope you can still see the letters, because it's basically subtitles that will tell what I've come up with. And in Jogja, I used 2 screen, just a little bit tilted, and hoping that it would show that the two screen actually talking to each other, sometimes parallel. But there's actually another one, chapter 6, which I filmed in Jakarta. And it's kind of synced together with this video essay, which has 6 minutes and 30-some seconds. So today, I want to show the 3 screen at the same time, so 3 in 1. So you have to try hard, or just give up on the give up on either one. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. This is how it looks in Jogja. Yeah, okay, this is the 3 in 1. Is it starting? Okay.
Seolah-olah
Okay.
sebuah tempat ada, tetapi ia tidak ada.
How?
Tempat hanyalah sebuah tempat. Diciptakan atau ia dimunculkan.
So I really don't know if you could follow any of the elements, but I hope you got few of it. Basically about the painting and the painter, which I also imagine to be actually copyist, not the painter himself. Painter himself is also interesting, but so this is how I approach histories, and all of these efforts are driven just by curiosity. And for this project, I will just briefly show, but it was initiated by my interest towards this Dutch geography book, which depicted Japan, and it's called like this. They have like a page-long title, which I can never pronounce it right, but so they created basically imaginary histories and geography and Japan. As you can see, it's like a mashup of all the Asian elements that they knew back then. And it started from looking at these images, and then I got into these histories that I could introduce just maybe a little bit today. But yeah, more and more I deal with the histories, I start to understand the importance of imagining the histories as not to conclude the histories, because nowadays you will have a lot of well, I don't know, like political efforts or propaganda or different types of forcement to fix the histories and to legitimize the understanding and the communication that you can actually more be freer. And so I like these imaginary Japan, and I'm trying to adapt this idea, and the way I work, or the way I want to work, is to inspire myself also. And so I'm not a historian. I know quite something about this era now, but I didn't know most of the thing I know today when I started. So yeah, I think I will continue a little bit more, maybe to finish this series. But yeah, basically that's it. So you might see the finished chapter 9 somewhere, and yeah, you might see the change somewhere as well, but I don't know. So yeah, okay, thank you. Any question before we go to Aham? No? Really? I answer everything? Okay. Which one is Aham?
Yes. That's it. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Arham Rahman. I'm in-house curator for Lorong Gallery, and 2 or 3 years ago, I forget, maybe 2 years ago, I met with湘汶in Jogja, and she asked me to make something together. And then after that,湘汶have some idea to make a project about this project actually. Before that, she talked about history and the connection between Taiwan and Indonesia. For me, that was interesting issues because actually my first memory about Taiwan is the story about Austronesian people who move from Taiwan to Nusantara, to area of Indonesia, in one perspective of theories, because there are two popular theories about the peoples who move from Taiwan to Nusantara. And my second memory is about Sidik Bale. It's a local tribe in Taiwan who hunt their enemies' head. It's a movie actually, and it's a very popular movie when a few years ago. And then the third memory about Taiwan was, of course, Kaoliang. Kaoliang. And when湘汶invited me to Tainan last year, actually I have a plan to make a research about Kaoliang and its connection with Taiwanese nationality, but湘汶reject it. And I'm not finished my residency actually. So when she contact me again, and then you must talk, and I'm a little bit confused what I must present, because for this exhibition in Kwandu, I just get some very small information, so that I think I will talk about, like maybe we can connect it with one works in Kwandu, Arwin's work. So I want to talk about batik, batik and contemporary craft in Indonesia, because my gallery focus in craft issues, and I think it's the only gallery in Indonesia who talk about craft. But I don't know what I show actually, because I'm still running the program, and it's like a long-term program to explore about craft issues. So we will explore it for a few years. So, but we do not know yet, because we're trying to find a new form or new discourses about craft, and we still build it. I already, this year is my 30 years in Lorong, and until now, I haven't get like a clear answer with my first question when I come to Lorong, the question about craft in Indonesia. So maybe I just give some highlight about craft, the first, and then I will explain about batik. It's part of my research 2 years ago, and we show it in Jim Thompson Museum. At the time I work with Chemeti, and then we show it in Jim Thompson and make a research for them about batik, and maybe we can connect it with Arwin's work. Even though I will not show Arwin's work here, you can see it in Kwandu, maybe. So the first thing that because we are starting from the base issues, the debate between art and craft in Indonesian context, because before that we never have a term like a specific mention about art and craft. In some idea, we have one word, we call it kagunan in Java language. Kagunan means that something useful, something that you use for everyday life. So all of the form of art, especially the traditional art in Java, especially, we call it as kagunan. And then when the first time art institution in Indonesia established, they bring these issues and categorize which one is craft, which one is art. So the problem is from the beginning is the institution, art school or art department, and then they affect and they bring some of the debate about art and craft. So until now, even though people's talk, there is no art and craft now, everything is contemporary art, is bullshit actually. Because symptomatically, this binary opposition still exists. You can see through the Facebook status or through the ordinary conversation, symptomatically we still find this binary opposition. And from the beginning it exists in the art school. Another consequence, craft, because we know about the debate that we never know before, they categorize craft as just like a merely hobby or something practical and less discursive. That's also annoying, because most of the traditional artists in Indonesia using craft technique. And then, yeah, this is what I said before. Craft still treated as an outsider, even though they are trying to come to contemporary art event. And there are several events which bring craft, like ceramics art biennale. This year will be happen in Jatiwangi, and also some crafts event, but they're still separating. And until now, we do not have a final answer about it. For my first proposition, actually, until now, while art and contemporary art focusing on concept and intellectual aspect, like skills and craftsmanship are the consequence of the concept, craft created its own way, exploring craftsmanship, materiality aspect, and etc. Or if we wanna use Richard Sennett term, he introduced one very interesting term, I think, rhythm of routine. It's more like everyday life activity that you do that every day, and then it's become automaton. In French, we call it a savoir-faire, or a knowledge without head. Like when you use motorcycle, it's like automaton. You do not need to think. You just come to motorcycle, and then it will be like automatically. You know what you wanna do. So this writer conceptualized that idea, and I'm very curious with this theory because in some perspective, savoir-faire is also something that not useful. It's something that you just like a robot, because and also exists in industrial area, like a craft area, like in Kasongan, for example, they already have a design and then make ceramics, for example, and make some craft. But in my perspective, I think we can trying to find a way to conceptualize this idea, because rhythm of routine means that how to connect between mind until the tools that we use. So that's make me think these past 2 years, maybe we can find another way to talk about craft. So I'm trying to make some program in Lorong, which trying to conceptualize this idea, like performing craft. For example, I invite some artists, and then actually not craft artists sometimes, and then I ask them about my idea, and then they are trying to make new interpretation with that idea. And like, yeah, sometimes it's fail actually. Most of my project until now still fail in my perspective, and some of my friends, but we don't care about that. Let's just do this experiment, and then maybe next time we can find the final form of what is performing craft. Or maybe like also like what related to material culture. It's the easiest thing that we can do, like Ugahari architect in my gallery. That's totally use the perspective of material culture, because on that perspective, material can speak, can have their own narrative rather than just talk. So you can find something through the material, something like that. And in our practices, we put craft as a collaborative practice. So craft is always collective, not individual. And what they are trying to build is interhuman relation, not human and object, but human and human, something like that. And then, yeah, in our perspective, that's only can we get from craft when we are making craft, when in the process of working. So that's also what we can find in traditional batik. This system exists in some of Indonesian traditional craft, especially batik, because in batik, we are working together with other peoples. For example, one person make the design, and then one person put the wax, and then one person dyeing it, and then after all of the process finish. So it's like there is like a division of labor, but yeah, you can work together with that. So, what is batik in Indonesian contemporary condition? So, now batik, they make a definition about batik. You can also find this definition. Batik always using wax and dye technique and also has meaning. So sometimes people identified batik just from the motif or the pattern, but no, batik is about technique, not about pattern or motif. Sometimes if we find like a cloth or batik, we call it batik, but made by printing, we call it artificial batik. Or just use stamp, because there are 3 techniques to make batik. First is traditional technique, using hand, the process is handmade, and then the second is stamp, and the third is printing. So stamp and printing is artificial batik, not the real batik actually. So batik is about technique, not pattern. And in my research, I'm trying to track where is batik coming from, because almost all of the peoples, all of the intellectuals or academics mention that batik coming from Java, but there are one writers that I found, Branders, a Dutch researcher, mentioned that batik originally not coming from Java, but coming from another area that I never imagined before, Flores, Toraja, even Papua. I can imagine because these 3 tradition never have, what I know, never has this, never has a concept of batik. In Toraja and Flores, they have weaving. In Papua, even I don't know if they have cloth or fabrics, using fabrics for everyday life. But this research, this assumption bring me to Toraja. I'm coming from Celebes, so it's not far from my house. It's around just 4 hours, and I always go to Toraja for vacation. Actually, never for not as a researcher before. And after I seeing it, I'm trying to find some data and trying to see all of the materials that they have, all of the fabrics or all of the clothes that they have. The first thing that I found, of course, this always used in funeral ceremony is something common, and this is printing, and you can find this pattern everywhere in the funeral ceremony. And then I found something interesting. I found this. Before that, they use these fabrics on the back of the buffalo. So in the funeral ceremony, because they use some buffalo, so every buffalo also have a casta, how to say it, casta? Like a strata, something. In front, they use this, the buffalo, yang paling depan gak, Pak? Yeah, the first buffalo use this cloth in the back. But now they using truck. So this is castrated buffalo. This symbolize spiritualism. And then the second buffalo will symbolize wealth, because Toraja is so capitalist. So they put wealth after spiritualism. And then the third buffalo symbolize braveness. And the fourth buffalo symbolize, actually this is a wrong translation. People call it, translating it as a slave, but actually not slave. In Toraja language, we call it kaunan. Kaunan means that client, because we have a concept pattern client, it seems like a master and slave, but actually it's just kaunan. Kaunan means that if I have a big family and then I have some people who follow me, like followers, they are become my kaunan. They will do whatever I ask, but I must give something to them too. It's like a mutualism between patron and client. Every concept, patron client in South Sulawesi like that, not just like a slave. Yeah, in the past, especially in 19th century, there was slavery, yeah, of course, but that's not that's a different concept. Different concept with kaunan. So they have a stratification. So in one tong kaunan, because their concept was there is no king there, So it's more like a house kinship. Their kinship is like a more house kinship. So it's depend on the tongkonan or the houses. So every houses has a master, let's say like that, patron, and then there also a kaunan. And then I'm trying to expand my research. I met with some peoples there, especially some old men, very old men, and he still know about some pattern in Toraja because there are 100 pattern in Toraja, and I found one symbol that always exists in every popular symbol like this. This symbol I found in Ketekesu, so they put it in the coffin, and then this one also I found in Londa. I'm trying to ask him, what kind of symbol is this? And he said, this is octopus. I feel, how can people who stay in the mountain have imagination about octopus? So it makes sense. And I always found all of the pattern in the coffin, in the old grave, something like that. So there are so many octopus. So how they imagine octopus? Where they find octopus? Yeah, mountain. Coffee, yeah, it's okay, but this is octopus. And he also, maybe you can search it later, like Toraja and Tongkonan. And he said, when you see the Tongkonan, it's more like a ship. When you put it like this, it's like a ship. And I'm trying to connect it with the old theory about the peoples who come to Southeast Asia and connect between Toraja, Dayak, and Dayak. Toraja, Dayak, and Batak. We call it as Proto-Malayan, Old Malayan, and almost all of the pattern same, and also the color, red, black, white, something like that. No yellow. Yellow is Bugis and Makassar, but black and then red and white also in this, always in this old tradition. And I'm sent, I remember maybe when I sent湘汶photo like a Torajan photo, and she tried to find some photo from local peoples in Taiwan, and I'm trying to compare it. It looks similar. I don't want to make some hypothesis, but it looks similar. So I'm thinking about when they made like a funeral tradition. They always put the leg to the west. In the west there was a sea actually. Far in the west is sea. So I mean that it's like imagination. When they talk about Puya is heaven in Torajan culture. It means that they are trying to back where they are belonging. So and they use the myth of octopus. So you can find all of this pattern in the coffin. And I also found this. Finally, I found this like this. They call it as sarita cloth, sarita. So before that, they just put sarita cloth. It's very small cloth actually. So they are not using it for clothing. Just use it for tradition, especially for funeral tradition. So they just put it in the dead body. They just, of course, this is printing, But you can see the pattern also about sarita. So sarita means that sarita in English, sarita in another term, my informant said is gurita. Sarita, gurita is octopus. So they call it as sarita cloth. So I found this in some family, but the original one is not easy to access, because if you wanna see the original one, you must make some rituals for them. And then if you wanna see the original one, I forget a museum in Japan that he mentioned to me, maybe in Osaka, like Asian Pacific Textile Museum, maybe you can find this kind of original, the original Sarita. I hope someday I can see it. So you must invite me, Mamuru. Just kidding. And what the differences between this whole tradition with Java? So in Java, because it's already coming from the palace, and then they develop the motif and the technique of batik through the area near the palace and coastal area. So batik means that like rambataning titik-titik. It means that you give a dot like that, because the technique is like a dot when you put the color and the wax. And also there are two differences. There are two big kingdom that influence the style of batik in Java, especially Central Java. Is Yogyakarta and Solo. So two different kind of style. And you can see the differences in one museum in Solo, the Narhadi Museum. They have 11,000 collections, batik collection. So you can find the differences between these two traditions. After the Gianti Treaty, so the Dutch separate between Solo and Jogja, and because the central in Solo, and then the kingdom from Jogja take all of the clothes, the kingdom clothes to Jogja, and then Solo king make new pattern and new style of batik, and just use for some rituals. But after that, I forget the year, after the king of Solo make batik. He trying to make batik more popular because there's no special pattern, so he made like a regulation. This one that you can use, and this one that you cannot use. For example, parang, you cannot use parang in front of the palace. They will kick your ass if you use parang motif in front of the palace. But you can use it in another place. As long as there is no noble family, you can use parang. And the most important thing for batik, I think, in my research, when they go beyond the wall and spread along the coastal area, especially in East Java, like Pekalongan and some other area there. And it mix between Dutch culture at the time and then Chinese, especially Chinese. You can find many Chinese motif in batik. And also since Japanese occupation, I forget to put the example of the batik, but it's very interesting because there is a crisis. There was a crisis at the time. It's not easy to find fabrics, and then people make a batik like batik sore apa? Siang pagi sore apa? Tidak, nama batiknya pagi sore enggak ya? I forget. So that batik you can use in the day, and then you can use in the night, because there was a crisis at the time. So they make a special batik at the time, Japanese occupation, and then also Muslim batik. So I want to show you some the differences of batik pattern. This one we called as kawung pitches. All of this batik from Jogja actually. This kind of pattern. So it symbolizes papat pancar, 4 direction, water, fire, air, soil, so symbolize the element, and then symbol of balance, human heart as the central, just used by the noble family. So if you see this pattern, just used by the noble family, and it's also very difficult sometimes to make this. Sometimes they use some special technique to the tools that I mentioned before. Every craftsman must treat the tools to make something more detailed like this. It's not easy to make this actually. You must modifying your tools. And then this one's something very popular actually, Bleda Sidolur Latar Putih. So for mitoni ceremony, for the first pregnancy of woman, for this when it's already in 7 months, they make rituals. We call it mitoni. It symbolizes happiness. So every people can use this. And this one, parang barong, just used by the king, of course, especially in some rituals, and symbolize power and authority. So not every people can use this, but what we can find in coastal area is very popular batik and very colorful batik. There are some differences between batik from coastal area and batik from inland area. Batik from coastal area is more bright because the vegetation, because the plant. And batik in the inland area is more dark. Something like that. So all of the palace batik is more dark. And also some encounter between Java and some tradition, especially in coastal area like this. You can see the Chinese pattern. It's popular. You can find it in Bringharjo market actually. And then this one is also Chinese, so it's more bright, something like that. And this one we call it Rafaiyah batik. So this Muslim batik influenced by Muslim. So because in Muslim it's forbidden to draw like animals or human. So they make a new thing. So like this is bird but without head. Like this also bird but without body. So you can draw it but not complete. So it's also this. So like a bird but without also without head. So Raifaya, you can find it in some area in East Java and West Java. And this, the Dutch batik, there, I'm not find the photo actually, but I like one batik that I saw in Danar Hadi. The batik talk about penangkapan Diponegoro, the capture of Diponegoro. So the Dutch make a batik and the story about when they catch the Diponegoro in Magelang. So also there's a version of batik, a very old batik. But the character of European batik also like this, like a story. They make a storyline in the batik. So it's influenced the style of batik. And I found this style too in Celebes when my neighbor, for my research actually, for my thesis research, because my research about Bugis wedding, and then my neighbor using like a special, we call it laming, special fabrics, and it's like this. It's like a story, and there are also some text and story, something like that. So the Dutch give a big influence to batik tradition too. And I think that's all about batik, but maybe I wanna give like a context for Arwin's work. Arwin's style is more modern actually, it's more modern, but it's began on 1970s, that style. So there was a crisis after 1960s, the crisis in batik industry after they found stamp and printing, and then some local industry, some traditional industry fall. And then some peoples in Solo make a group. The group name is Canting Kakung. So it's also about gender issues too. Because in batik, they believe that for women, they just know how to give a wax, how to follow the line, how to follow the design. But the one who made the design is a man. So they made like a canting, nyanting. Nyanting means that the tools to draw batik. So this community Canting Kakung using painting technique to apply in fabrics and using batik technique, some batik techniques too. So because all of them are men, and then they draw it directly to the fabrics and make the batik, and still exists until now. Some of them already getting old, some, but they have some young member. It's very interesting, and that movement influence some batik workers, batik makers in Jogja, especially the artists. So they are trying to imitating the style, and then they make their own using painting technique. So when you see Arwin's work is more like a painting style of Arwin's. So that if you wanna see his painting, you also could find Arwin style when he make a painting, and that style he applied in batik. So it's more like a modern style, but for me it's more like a contemporary style actually, because Arwin also made like several research and involving his technique also with Yuvita, one of batik artists also from Jogja. So sometimes they are working together to make the batik. So until now, maybe we can say that's the limit of batik for now, because yeah, you can apply it for some materials, just for several materials. But for me, it's still interesting to talk about batik, because there are so many things that we can talk about batik and how they made it, because it's more like spiritual things. It's more like you must make one batik. You to make batik you need maybe a few weeks to make one batik. So it's very very carefully, not industrial, yeah, but in some exhibition or some batik makers. So they need time to make that batik. And I think that's all. Maybe we can talk after this.
Because I was quite impressed by your talk. That I didn't actually watch the topic or the motive of Arwin's work, so maybe I have to take a more detailed, more close look. But it itself is very still, and it seems like compared to the video, it's more traditional. Of course, that we all know that. But it seems like from your talk, what is important is not necessarily about the pattern, the color, or its outlook, but also how it is convey different meaning, or it became the media in different time and different contexts to to have different powers interact with each other. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe anyone who have no, I think it's very good because it's very it's a very Thai-based practice anyway. And there's another group called Tarim Bati now is also in Taiwan now. Maybe Taiwan, yeah. So I can help relate these two different forms. I mean, it's printing, and also many people have to involved, and it also like the authorship. Someone had doubted the authorship of the printing of Tarim Bati because it looks. No, there's another group in Malaysia called Pangwasura, right? So Pangrasura has a very similar style with Tayouan batik. So it's very difficult to tell which one copy or which one is the original, or is the original. The concept of originality is important in this kind of craftsmanship. So I wonder if in batik is also have similar situation, or it's different. The authorship is always belong to the designer or something.
Yeah, every batik makers have like their own style and their own way to make a batik, and it's totally different. Especially in batik, when you make batik, it will be no repetition, so people cannot imitating that. There must be something unique from the beginning. Yeah, from the design of course, but the way you make it actually, especially for when you trying to like apa ya, mencelupkan ini dyeing it will be give a different effect for each batik makers. Mi do re mi. Like this batik actually, the wax is pecah or broke ya. Yeah, the wax is like broke, so give this effect. It's different with this one. It's more clean, but this one is not. It depends is the way how you use the wax, how you apply the wax, and also there are several technique also, not just using like animals fat for the wax, but there was also using bees and also using rice. I never seen it before, but in the past people said they use it. And sometimes for the color fixation, the last process of the batik process, for now they use chemical materials. But in the past, when I asking people in Toraja how they fix the color, they said they use liquor. Tua, yeah. That's make me so. Wow, yeah. They use tua, our local liquor. So they use tua. It's also interesting because when I talk about that to one batik expert in Jogja, and she said that makes sense because that technique, we know that technique also in West Java. I hope that someday I can track the connection and also different chanting, because chanting in Toraja using bamboo, also used in West Java. Different techniques. So every batik makers must have their own style. Like Arwin and Yovita, even though Arwin work with Yovita, both of them is totally different. Yeah, Yovita is more like draw like flora, like plants, something like that, and experiment with some materials, some plants for coloring the batik. Arwin also has his own style, something like that.